Okay, so the beginning of my career, I think, happened when I was 14. I remember wanting to put on a big show, so I booked like 100 bands at the Waterdown Legion, and one of them had a guitar player in the band who was a lot older than me, and his name was Jeremy Weiderman. He plays in Monster Truck now, but he sat me outside after my all-girl punk band played and said, "You are very good. You need to keep singing." And that was the moment that I was like, I should do this. This is my career. And then my career actually started when I was 27 at the Greenbelt Harvest Picnic, I would say, which was the first time I connected with Daniel Lanois, who became one of my all-time greatest mentors. And I started kind of focusing more on my solo project, and that's where my professional career really started. Yeah, I mean, I think a huge milestone for me because I come from a family of women who had jobs in music. So uh, my aunt Teresa played guitar in country bands in the '70s and toured, and my grandmother played piano in churches, but also on the Via train from Toronto to Montreal in the '60s, back and forth when she had three children already, which is like amazing. Um, so like a working music mom, which is super inspiring to me. But I think the milestones came when I realized I was actually walking in their footsteps and I could look back and go like, oh, I'm doing what my family already did before me. And that only happened in the last couple of years. Ever did I realize, oh, yeah, the family tradition in my family is it. Fuck, of course it's strong. Music is in my blood, is what I'm saying, and so it's like it's so beautiful to be able to look back on my female relatives and what they've done. Yeah, I mean, my first strategy when I graduated high school was to immediately like move to another country and just play, busk or something. That's what I wanted to do. And I ended up being the first person to go to university in my family, which was amazing. But that was only because my mom forbade me from doing anything else. Um, so of course I got OSAP and went to university, and I'm happy I did. But after that, I was teaching music for a long time. I was teaching guitar and piano and vocal, and to me, that felt like I was, I had a career in music, even though it wasn't necessarily performing. And I think that was totally integral as well into like moving me into that performance side of things. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been nearly as prepared. If you had tried to put me on the road at 21, I would have let's say squandered my time out there. But having all that background, I was able to actually capitalize on opportunities, even though it was much later than I wanted. Um, so I guess, yeah, my strategy didn't work out as I planned when I was younger, but I actually needed it to go that way. And I think probably a lot of musicians would benefit from starting to tour later in their 20s, maybe. Yes. So collaborative community has been everything for me, like networking, like going to see shows is super, super important because then you can play with those bands, even if it's in the basement of a YWCA. You can like get together with people who are playing, even if they're not playing the same kind of music as you. And you can find common ground and then like learn from how you're watching other people perform. It's also really important to go and see larger acts as you're coming up in music because you want to see like where you want to go. Um, and it's like it's really helpful to figure out what your own personality is, either whether it's on stage or writing or anything. Like you need input, you need information to come to you. You can't just make it all up from nothing. It all comes from somewhere, and so um, collaboration is definitely important. And as you continue a career, co-writing might be on the list of options for you. There are careers in music where you can only write lyrics, which I didn't even know about until I got farther into it. But so there's so many jobs out there, creative jobs in music and collaboration. Like if you can't collaborate, music might not be the right thing for you because You need to be kind of not a people person always, but you need to have some skills in collaboration. I think I mean, I don't know if everyone feels this way about style or like the way that you present yourself in music, but I grew up in a household where there was really no music played. My grandparents listened to country music, and so as I got older, I was like going to look for music in other places, and I always had this really like crazy taste. Like I went to jazz camp, but I also loved old country, but I also was into punk, and I was also into Billie Holiday, and like so for me, I think what's important is like honesty and where you come from, and that's what you can hold on to. Like no matter what you like, just keep expressing it, because if you lose that, then your career is just kind of, I mean, you won't be doing what you want, so it's not worth anything. Only do what you truly feel in your heart, and make sure you don't lose like why you started in the first place. Ooh, this is so good. So when I first went into the studio, I think like a lot of people, I was literally afraid of the red light that said we were recording. I was petrified because that meant this is all that's happening right now, and in this moment is all that matters in the entire world. And if I don't get it, everything's going to explode. And obviously, that is not true. There are many things in the world that are so much more important than the one track that you're making on a record at any moment. Um, so once you take that pressure off yourself, it's so much easier, and you realize actually I'm making music, and this is like a beautiful privilege, and it's fun. If you can come at it from that perspective, that's huge. Another thing is like communication in the studio, because that can be really it's a really integral part of the process. You need to be able to communicate to those people who you're working with, whether you've been hired to be there or whether you are running the project, whether you're producing, whether you are the artist. You need to get your ideas across. And my biggest thing I would say is no one in the studio is a mind reader. So don't forget that, because if you want something to happen and it's not happening and you're getting frustrated, like to me, the studio is all about trying to keep the vibe high as much as you can, um, and obviously frustration takes away from that. So just try and communicate, and hopefully you're working with good people who will receive your communication and give it back to you. Yeah, I mean, producing is obviously it's a beautiful privilege when somebody asks you to take the wheel of their music. That also means you have the keys to whether they like what they're hearing or not, and whether it suits you. So you have to be careful when you're accepting those jobs. Is it something that you want, that you believe in, that you like truly want to get behind? If so, great, do it. If you're not really sure, maybe, that's you're not the right producer for that person. Um, I also think, because I've produced a lot of like songwriting camp stuff, like writing song camp stuff, and that's like a super high, like fast paced environment. And so I think it's really good if you know what you're doing on the computer. That would be awesome. But if you don't, you also don't have to be like, I'm mostly a kind of producer that doesn't that deals more with like vibe and musical performance and notes and melodies and all those things and songwriting. Um, so it's good to have both if you can, and also just like be nice to people. And as a woman, I did want to say it's like super important that we are seeing like a huge influx of women in technical jobs in the music industry. So like being a monitor person or a sound person, a mastering engineer. Obviously, women are already in those jobs, but just like every other industry, they're super underrepresented. So as you move forward, just be conscious of that. Like especially if you're working with a female producer, like don't disrespect her. Be nice, because it's kind of a new thing for many people. Like honestly, you'll have to miss, if you're at the age where your friends are getting married or people in your family are, I mean, I've missed funerals. It's crazy. I've also sang at funerals because that's also a thing that we are asked to do as musicians sometimes. So like we're asked to I don't know what I guess to sacrifice your presence at so many things at home if you're traveling for work. And that can be really tough, or like sacrificing parts of your relationship if it's one where you're gone all the time and that person's always at home. That can be a real strain. So it doesn't have to be, obviously, but yeah, I think missing out on some family stuff would definitely be part of my touring story at first. But if you have a supportive family, they actually want the best for you. That's what you'll figure out. So they're cool with it if you miss their birthday or their wedding or whatever it is. Ooh, surprise me about the music industry. There are so, I mean, the conversations that you'll have at a venue or like at a, an industry event or something, you'll really connect with certain people, and it won't necessarily be about the job that they do. You might just like have a new friend, and it really doesn't matter if they're on your label or if they're in a band that you want to tour with or don't want to tour with. Like you will find amazing friends, and you'll keep seeing these people as you continue your career. And it's, I mean, if you're doing it right, you should be excited to see them the next time, and especially during COVID. I mean, if you've made the right friendships, then you're going to keep in touch with these people, and will be a valuable, like emotional asset to you because they know what you're going through and they know about your industry, and you can talk to them. So creating those relationships that are actually based on like trust and integrity, it's super, super important. You know what? One thing that's really hard as an artist, and I really never expected this, is to have to be the boss. Um, because I like worked in the music store, I worked at Long McQuaid, no big secret there, for years, and I never wanted to be a boss because I was just happy to be working under someone else who would tell me what's up and what I should be doing. And then when I started touring with a band that was my band, my solo project, I all of a sudden was responsible for these three individuals, like adults, and I actually was the person who, if something went wrong, it comes back on you. So that was really difficult, especially I think, um, just realizing like, oh, what kind of a boss do I want to be? I want to be nice, but like it's not always possible to be nice. Sometimes you have to kind of be more firm, and that's really, really hard to do. Especially when you're touring with your friends, it's hard to kind of come down and be like, "Hey guys, we really have to get up at 6 a.m." I'm not joking. Like, you know? Um, and also all the early wake ups, I never expected that. I thought it would always be sleeping in until whatever time. And sometimes for morning TV, you're up at 4:45. So you don't get to sleep in. Next gen. Next generation of musicians. I mean, I hope that um, you guys keep in touch with the physical aspect of music because it is so beautiful. I know that listening to stuff digitally is super convenient and fun, but like having something that you can hold is super important to me. And I may sound like I'm a million years old and I don't care. Like putting my music on vinyl has been some of the greatest pleasures of my life. Like, listening, obviously, I have a large vinyl collection that spans back many years, and like to be included in the people that get the privilege of having their music on vinyl is huge. So I hope you stick with that. Um, and I hope generally like you stick with actually like learning about your instruments if you have one, or your voice, or your computer, or whatever it is. Excellence in music is like so important to me, and I love seeing somebody excel. So like really give it some effort and like do your best to express your authentic voice. That's all.